After a troubling report about crunch at Bethesda, Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty addressed employees' growing concerns in an all-hands meeting last Thursday, saying Xbox takes labor complaints very seriously, and he added that he's confident employees are no longer crunching at Bethesda Game Studios. Certainly a bold claim and amazing if it's true, but it is very hard to believe considering crunch is such a complicated and ongoing issue inside the games industry. But let's back up a little and get caught up with the original reporting around crunch at Bethesda, and then we can get into Matt Booty's exact quotes in response. At the beginning of the month, there was a report posted by Kotaku by CCGing that collected accounts from 10 former ZeniMax employees who shared their experiences after working at the studio. ZeniMax was the parent company of Bethesda before Microsoft acquired them, and the Kotaku report mainly focuses on crunch conditions and mismanagement experienced during the months leading up to the launch of Fallout 76. According to former QA staff, they were asked to work 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and even asked to come in on that one extra day for overtime. Kotaku was also told that QA staff working on Fallout 76 would have their breaks timed by non-management staff deemed as coordinators, aka chronic snitches. Workers who quit shared with their former coworkers in a group chat how they didn't cry in the shower anymore, or how their chest didn't feel heavy before going into work at their new job. Another employee who described how badly they wanted to quit but needed the income fantasized about falling down the stairs and being too injured to work. The QA staff was earning overtime, but it didn't amount to much, according to one of Kotaku's sources, who said, "We got overtime, but like all the money in the world doesn't matter at that point. When we did weekend work, they would get pizza for us, but it's not worth it." And it's kind of the same with the overtime money. It's like, yeah, it's more money, but at what cost? QA testers traditionally don't get paid as much as other departments in game development, and even sometimes not really thought of or included as part of the actual team or studio. Also, as you probably know, the role is highly stigmatized by players as well. Things got even worse after launch as players got their hands on the game. On social media, the QA team was ostracized for the overall state of Fallout 76, and one player even submitted a bug report through the Bethesda support tools, which read, "I'm going to take a gun and go to the QA department and shoot all of them." So basically, after being mismanaged and overworked, the QA staff also had to take the brunt of the criticism for the state of Fallout 76, which of course led to a lot of them leaving. But according to Kotaku's report, it wasn't just the QA department that was affected. Senior developers with 20 years experience in some cases, and walk-ons from other parts of the ZeniMax family, like Arcane Studios, fled the company in droves after having worked on Fallout 76. One employee told Kotaku, "No one wanted to be on that project because it ate people. It destroyed people. The amount of people who would go to that project and then they would quit Bethesda was quite high." A year after Fallout 76's launch, in an interview with IGN, Bethesda director Todd Howard admitted, "We've been through every type of crunch you can imagine. And long ago, some ones that were very, very difficult for a lot of us personally, with your time and your health and things like that. We've gotten much, much better at it. Now we're at a point where we can really manage it. I think it's why people stay here." However, according to that Kotaku report, Bethesda greatly overestimated the resources and time it would take to manage a live service game, and Fallout 76's post-launch content actually drove even more veteran developers from the company. Again, that initial report has a lot more details in it, and it even covers a couple of other games and different scenarios that came up. However, that just about covers it in regards to the update, which we're going to be talking about today, which coincidentally was reported on also by CCGing and published to Kotaku. In an all-hands meeting last week, Xbox Studios head Matt Booty was asked to address concerns around the original report detailing crunch culture at Bethesda pre-acquisition. Booty replied that Xbox takes crunch reports about its studios seriously, but he also added the challenge with a lot of these articles is that they look backwards, sometimes pretty far back in time. Again, Fallout 76 launched in 2018, so that's about 4 years ago. However, it did seem like there were more issues and problems going into the kind of post-launch content era of Fallout 76, leading into 2019. Outside of that, we don't know that much. Starfield is, set to launch in the first half of 2023, so sometime next year, early next year, hopefully. And that means that Bethesda's getting ready to head into crunch territory again if history is going to repeat itself, just as a quick side note. Booty went on to say, crunch culture is, if you go back 10 years ago, it's a little unfair to put that on one studio. It was just part of the industry. I don't say that to justify it. I'm just saying it was part of the culture of the industry. I literally slept under my desk early in my career, and we looked at that like a badge of honor. Now, if you're wondering where this is going, he's basically setting up an example to say that crunch culture is a thing of the past, at least at Bethesda. Booty stated, "I know from talking to Bethesda leadership that we do not have a situation where people are crunching and we've got this bullying atmosphere. I'm confident about that." He then went on to explain that crunch could be happening without his knowledge and encourage employees to use Xbox's human resources department or anonymous reporting tools to raise any concerns they might have. Now, there are a few issues that critics have been taking up with this response. Obviously, crunch doesn't have to be like a mandated overtime schedule to be crunch. It can come up as a result of, mismanagement, or even as kind of a social pressure, right? Don't you want the game to be good? Don't you want to finish this thing on time? Don't you want to not have to delay, this big game that we've been working on? Those types of things can oftentimes encourage developers to work more than they would normally. And it's kind of up to management to tamp that stuff down and tamp those expectations down, right? The other issue is it can kind of just crop up, right? It's like your manager asks you here and there to put in a couple hours or to work over the weekend or a couple weekends, and then it just doesn't stop and it goes on for months at a time. That can all be crunch. Secondly, as we've seen with a lot of other work culture reporting, just going to HR isn't really the solution since crunch is a systemic issue. There's kind of a stinger at the bottom of this Xbox story where the writer included a quote from an anonymous employee who wrote, "As an employee, what I'm taking away from this is that he's saying to go through HR." And we know how that worked out at Blizzard. Lastly, and I think maybe most importantly, Xbox throughout all of its acquisitions has been kind of prideful about its approach to being very hands-off, right? They're not coming in to make these big sweeping changes. Their kind of mission statement is that we're buying these studios because we believe they make great games and we don't want to interfere with that. Now, this might be good from a creative standpoint if you value a studio's work or the games that they've made in the past and you don't want to mess up a good thing, basically. But it also means that they will likely completely overlook any systemic issues like crunch or toxic working conditions. We've actually already seen this happen with Xbox-owned studio Undead Labs. That is, of course, the studio that's working on State of Decay 3, and there was a report earlier that really detailed a lot of toxic working conditions there since they've been working on the game, and it's caused all sorts of issues. It's caused their employees to be unhappy, and it's also caused, delays for State of Decay 3. There hasn't really been an update there, like if Xbox has come in now and kind of cleaned that stuff up and kind of given that studio the support it needs to kind of get its act together. So it's a little concerning because I think what a lot of people are expecting is for Xbox to come in and do that when the Activision Blizzard acquisition completes next summer. However, with Matt Booty's internal response here company-wide, all we can kind of hope is that Xbox's HR department fares better than Blizzard's or ZeniMax's when it comes to issues of crunch or, harassment or toxic working environments. And admittedly, I feel like as far as history is concerned, we don't have a lot of cause to believe that that can happen. It's not just these three companies. There's a lot of different video game companies like Ubisoft and others that have had similar issues, and employees have tried to go through HR and it kind of just doesn't work. So generally, solutions for fighting crunch and fighting toxic working environments is that there has to be some type of corporate mandate from the top down and corporate practices that managers actually believe in and enforce with their employees in order to kind of fight this stuff. So to hear that kind of response of just go to HR and then we'll sort it out from there is a little bit disheartening, I think, for, a lot of people, fans of the game industry, as well as developers working in the industry, and especially developers working at Xbox. So stay tuned. We might see, some kind of response from employees or a group of employees responding to kind of this messaging from Matt Booty, but time will tell on that, I guess. All right, thanks for watching. For more video game news and updates, stay tuned right here to Inside Gaming.